Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today doing a Windwitch deck profile. So I'm really excited for you guys because this deck is an amazing synchro deck that can synchro summon out some really amazing boss monsters like Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon and Windwitch Diamond Bell, which are both really powerful boss monsters for this deck. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards like getting your name in the description of every single video, getting a signed card sent in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your patron, along with test hands. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Windwitch Ice Bell, which is one of the best starters in the entire deck, and it's pretty much a cyber dragon with the effect of, if you control no monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand, then you can special summon a Windwitch monster from your deck, but it cannot be tributed. And this card also locks you into level 5 or higher monsters being summoned from the extra deck the turn you summon this card. And if this card is normal or special summon, you can also do 500 points of burn damage to your opponent, which helps out the deck a lot to be able to close out games. We then play 3 copies of Windwitch Glass Bell. This card is the card you're usually going to be summoning off your Ice Bell, and it's a really good card that if this card is normal or special summon, you get to add a Windwitch monster from your deck to your hand, except another copy of this card, which is a really good effect to be able to just get that monster from the deck so you can start synchro climbing into some really powerful synchro monsters. We then play 3 copies of Windwitch Snowbell. Windwitch Snowbell is the card you're going to be searching off your Glass Bell the majority of the time in this deck because it has the ability, if you control 2 or more wind monsters and no non-wind monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand. And a wind synchro monster that was summoned using this card as a material cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects, which is a really good effect to be able to protect copies of your Diamond Bell and Crystal Wing with this card's effect. It helps out a lot also because it is a level 1 tuner, so you can use these 2 to go for a level 7 and then use the level 7 that you synchro summon off your copies of these 2 to go in with the Snowbell for a Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, which is really awesome. We then play 3 copies of Windwitch Freeze Bell. Freeze Bell is a good 3 of as well because it has the ability that if all monsters you control are Windwitch monsters, minimum 1, then you can special summon this card from your hand. And you can only use the effects of this card once per turn, and then once per turn during your main phase, you can increase this card's level by 1, and a wind synchro monster that was special summoned using this card as a synchro material cannot be destroyed by battle, which is a really awesome effect that you can basically protect your monsters from your opponent's card effects that are going to destroy it, and you can protect it from being destroyed by battle with Freeze Bell, which is really good. We then play 3 copies of Windwitch Blizzard Bell. Blizzard Bell is a good 3 of. It does have to be normal summoned out to your side of the field as a level 5, but it has a really unique effect that takes care of that. That if you control no monsters, or all monsters you control are Windwitch monsters, you can normal summon this card without tributing, which helps out this card a lot, so you don't have to tribute a monster to summon out this card. It also has the ability that during your opponent's main phase, if you control a Windwitch monster other than this card, then quick effect, you can send this card from your hand or field to the grave, and then inflict 500 points of damage to your opponent, which can help you close out games with doing burn damage with this card and your copies of Ice Bell, which is super helpful. We then play 3 copies of Wind Channeler, which is really good to be able to discard this card plus another wind monster to be able to grab a wind monster from your deck to your hand that has 1500 or less defense, which is really helpful to be able to grab cards that you need to start your plays. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom is really good because it can shut down your opponent from grabbing cards from the deck, and it's just a really good hand trap in this particular build. We then play 2 copies of Ghost Bell. Ghost Bell is also a really good hand trap and a definite 2 of in this particular build because it can shut down your opponent's graveyard, and it's just a really good card for this deck. We then play 2 copies of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. Ghost Ogre is a good hand trap as well because playing 2 and 2 of Ghost Bell and Ghost Ogre just helps out the deck a lot to be able to pop cards and shut down the graveyard. We then play, for the last 2 monsters, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Effect Veiler as well. Effect Veiler is really good in this deck because it can stop an opponent's monster effect, and it's just a really good card overall to be able to stop the opponent from using their monster effects during their main phase. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing some really amazing spells in this deck, and we're going to start out with a single copy of Monster Reborn, which can help us synchro climb, bringing back one of our level 7 synchro monsters with a card like a Snowbell on your field to be able to go in for some really powerful synchro monsters, or just bring back a really powerful synchro monster that's been sent to the graveyard. We then play a single copy of Harpy's Feather Duster, because with cards like Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, you can stop monster effects, but you really want to have a card that can handle the back row, where Harpy's Feather Duster can really do that and just get rid of all your opponent's back row so you can go in for your crazy plays. We then play a single copy of Call by the Grave just to stop the opponent from hand trapping us. This card is a really good one-of in the deck to be able to stop hand traps from being used while we're going through our plays. We then play a single copy of Pot of Avarice. Pot of Avarice is really good in this particular deck because it's going to help you out a lot to be able to bring back 5 of your monsters, shuffle them into the deck, and then draw 2 cards, because you're going to be going through a lot of monsters every single turn to synchro climb into your crazy powerful boss monsters. So this card is a good one-of to help you be able to recycle your monsters. We then play 3 copies of Windwitch Chime. Windwitch Chimes is a good 3-of because it has the ability to target a Windwitch monster you control and lets you special summon a Windwitch monster with a different name from your deck in defense position, and you can only activate this card once per turn, and you can't special summon monsters the turn you activate this effect except for wind monsters, which is again not that big of a deal because the majority of the cards we're playing in the extra deck are wind synchro monsters. We're then playing 3 copies of Crossout Designator. Crossout Designator is a good 3-of in this deck because with all the hand traps that we're playing, you can use this card to protect yourself from getting hand trapped while you're going into your synchro monsters. This card also helps you thin the deck because you get to declare 1 card name and banish the declared card from your main deck, and if you do, negate its effects as well as the activated effects and effects of the card on the field with the same original name as the card you sent to the graveyard. So basically, if your opponent tries to effect Veiler, you can chain Crossout Designator to be able to stop an effect Veiler by sending it to the graveyard from our deck, which is really helpful in this particular deck because you want to be able to use your cards to be able to climb into Crystal Wing, so this card protects your plays. So that's it for the spell cards, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're going to be playing a single copy of Icy Breeze. Icy Breeze is a good 1-of. I did play it at 2, but I've bumped it down to 1. It's still a really good trap card for this deck because it lets you activate one of these 2 effects. You can either target a Windwitch monster in the graveyard and special summon it in defense position, or when your opponent activates a card or effect in response to your Windwitch monster's activated effects, you can negate that opponent's effect, which is really good, but with cards like Crossout Designator, I ended up bumping it down to 1. We then play 2 copies of Infinite Impermanence, just in case we want to use it against the opponent, or we want to send it to the graveyard with Crossout Designator to stop the opponent from using this particular card against us. So this card is a really good 2-of in this deck. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Windwitch Diamond Bell. This card is a really good boss monster to play alongside your Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, because this card is a generic card that just requires a tuner and a non-tuner wind monster to be able to summon it, where cards like Crystal Wing requires you to use a synchro monster to synchro summon it. This card has the ability that if this card is synchro summoned, you can target a Windwitch monster in your graveyard and inflict damage to your opponent equal to half its attack points. And you can only use the effect of this card once per turn, and then once per turn, if your opponent takes battle or effect damage, you can target a card on the field and destroy it. And if you control this card that was synchro summoned using only Windwitch monsters and material, you can use this effect up to twice per turn, which is really good for this card to be able to pop 2 cards on the field on your opponent's turn, because it's just a really good effect to be able to pop cards on the field when you inflict damage to your opponent. We then play 2 copies of Windwitch Winterbell, which you're usually going to use this card with a Snowbell to climb into your copy of Diamond Bell. But this card is basically here so you can climb into your copy of Diamond Bell. And also do 1,200 points of damage to your opponent with Diamond Bell's effect. It also has the ability that you can target a Windwitch monster in your graveyard and inflict damage to your opponent equal to that target's level times 200, which can be up to like 400 or level 4 monsters, so it's going to do about 800 points of damage to your opponent. And during either player's battle phase, you can target a Windwitch monster you control and then special summon a monster from your hand with the level less than or equal to that monster, but it can't attack this turn, which helps you get out cards to your side of the field as well. We then play play a single copy of Wind Pegasus. Wind Pegasus is really good because you can climb into your other monsters using this card as a material, because when this card is in the graveyard, you can banish this card and then target a card your opponent controls and shuffle it into the deck, which is super helpful for this deck to be able to use this card to climb into your monsters. I then play a single copy of Clearwing Fast Dragon because it's a good level 7 wind monster that helps out a lot in this deck. The only thing you have to be careful about this card is it will go to the extra deck when it leaves the field, so that's the only thing that you have to be careful of with this particular card. We then play a single copy of Clearwing Synchro Dragon. Clearwing Synchro Dragon is a good monster in this deck to just summon out to your side of the field because it can negate monster effects, so it's a really powerful card to be able to summon in this deck. We then play a single copy of Maple Maiden. Maple Maiden is a wind synchro monster, so it's very easy to summon in this deck, and also has the ability that if this card is special summoned, you can declare one attribute, and this card gains the following effects: that all face-up monsters become that attribute, and you can target one monster in your opponent's main monster zone, and your opponent must send one card in the adjacent monster zones or spell and trap card zones to the graveyard, which is helpful because it can get a card off the field. We then play 2 copies of Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. This card is super easy to summon in this deck because all you pretty much have to do is go Ice Spell, Glass Spell, Synchro Summon for your Windwitch monster or your Wind Pegasus, and then use the Snowball that you search off of Glass Spell to go into this card. This card has a really awesome effect that is basically a walking monster negate, because once per turn, when another monster effect is activated, quick effect, you can negate the activation if you destroy that monster, and if you do that, this card gains attack equal to the destroyed monster's original attack until the end of this turn, and this card battles an opponent's level 5 or higher monster. During damage calculation, this card gains attack equal to the current attack of that opponent's monster it's battling during the damage calculation only, which is really good because this card can get over a lot of monsters. We then play a single copy of Stardust Dragon because it is a wind witch deck, so it's very easy to summon out Stardust Dragon just to protect your monsters and your cards on your side of the field from being destroyed by card effects. I then play a single copy of Cyber/Harpy Lady. This card is a good one-of in the deck. It helps out a lot. You don't have to play it in this particular deck, but it's a really good one-of that just is a really powerful card. It has the ability that when this card is on your side of the field, when a spell or trap card or effect is activated, except during the damage step, quick effect, you can target one monster opponent controls or one Harpy monster that you control and return it to the hand, which is really good to have that bounce effect. 1 copy of Virtual World QB. This card is just a good walking macrocosmos because any card sent from the field to the graveyard is banished instead, which is really good in this particular deck. 1 copy of Stellar Wolf because it is a wind synchro monster and it's super easy to summon in this deck. And it's just a really powerful, almost Nibiru-ish card. And then we play a single copy of Baron de Fleur. Baron de Fleur is a really easy card to summon in this deck. It's a walking negate and it can pop cards on the field, so this card is a definite one-of in this particular deck. But if you can't afford it, you can take it out for something else that is a wind synchro monster, like another copy of Stardust Dragon or a 3rd copy of your Windwitch level 7 monster if you want to go that route instead to make it a little bit more budget. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. It's a really fun deck to play around with, and it just goes into some really amazing synchro monsters, which is why I love this deck so much. Because synchro summoning is one of my favorite mechanics in the entire game, especially with a super consistent deck like this. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell on there so you can come part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.